Hello friends, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I'm Kavita Chauhan. I teach philosophy of art in philosophy department, University of Hyderabad. Today we are discussing another module, Canons of Indian Literary Criticism. There has been a rich tradition in India on literary criticism beginning from Bharat 1st century BC to Pandit Jagannath 17th century. These theoreticians have richly contributed to various debates on art and literature. Today we will be discussing these various reflections on literature. What are these? First of all, I'll start with what it is known as literature, this term literature in Indian tradition. In this tradition, world of words or written material is known as Vangmay. Vangmay is divided into Kavyokti and Shastrokti. Shastrokti is the matter-of-fact expression or scientific discourse, and Kavyokti is the poetic or artistic expression. Shastrokti is also known as Swabhavokti. Swabhavokti is that which is naturalistic expression, common man's speech, or just written material, where there are no figurative or suggestive devices are used. Whereas Kavyokti is that in which peculiar turn is given or deviated speech is used, which is also known as Vakra. So where Vakra or Atishokti is implied, that is known as Kavyokti. This distinction between Shastra and Kavya was first time made by 6th century aesthetician Dandin. He made a distinction between Shastra and Kavya. Let us now see how Kavya is distinct from Shastra. And the 6 canons, what we are discussing in this module, are the principles which distincts Kavya from Shastra. These 6 principles are Alankars, Guna, Riti, Vakroti, Dhvani and Auchitya. Let us now start with Alankars. Alankars have played a very prominent role in Indian aesthetic history, to that extent that whole aesthetic tradition was known after the name of Alankars. It was known as Alankar Shastra. So it has been widely, or what we can say, Alankars have been widely used in literary traditions. Alankarvadins define poetry as the combination of word and sense, Shabdarthu Sahityu Kavyam. But this combination itself is not sufficient unless beautified with Alankars. Hence, Alankarvadins define poetry in terms of Alankars. For them, Alankars are the only integral elements of poetic beauty. Without them, poetry would not just exist. Bhama, the proponent of Alankar school, gives an example of a beautiful woman who needs ornaments to look more beautiful. Not merely this, that Alankars constitute poetry, but there is something which constitutes Alankars. What are these that constitute Alankars? Bhama says, Vakrata or deviational speech is the essence of Alankars. Even to constitute an Alankar, it requires deviational speech. Hence, he also, or we can say that he also made a distinction between straightforward expression and deviational expression. And deviational expression is the essence of Alankars, and then Alankars are the essence of poetic speech. So finally, a distinction is being made between Shastra and Kavya, or straightforward expression or poetic expression or artistic expression. Alankars are of 2 types, Shabdalankar and Arthalankar. Shabdalankars are based on words and Arthalankars are based on meaning or Shabd. Examples of Shabda Alankars are Yamak and Anupras, and examples of Artha Alankar are Upma and Rupak. On the basis of this distinction of Shabda Alankar and Artha Alankars, theoreticians like Rudrat and Udbhat have elaborated more and more. Now we come to another canon of literary criticism, which is Guna. Generally, Guna is translated as merits. Now, what is merit? Merit is that which brings elegance to poetic speech or to word and meaning. Merits have been, or gunas have the contrast with doshas. So a poet brings merit or guna or elegance to poetry and avoids doshas. So opposite to merits or gunas are the doshas. So first time Bharat have contributed on gunas, but that was completely related to dramatic expression or language that is used in drama. First time Dandi talked about merits as it is the essence of poetic speech or literary art. On the basis of merits, he says it is marg that a poet chooses to write on. What is a marg? Marg is that which is decided by gunas. So a poet chooses his own marg to move on. So literally meaning of marg is to go or to move. So a poet, the way he chooses or she chooses her words to write poetry is known as marg. And further he talks about that there are two margs, Vaidharbi and Gaudi. Vaidharbi is that which a poet chooses or prefers than Gaudi because it contains 10 gunas. And these 10 gunas are what Dandi enumerated: Shlesh, compactness, prasad, lucidity, samata, evenness of sound combination, madhurya, elegance of sound and idea, sukumarta, absence of harsh sounds, artha vyakti, explicitness, udarta, eminence or loftiness of idea express, ojas, vigor, kanti, absence of over exaggeration, and samadhi, superimposition of the attributes of one object to another. So these are the 10 gunas which Dandi talked about, which brings elegance to the poetic speech. Now we come to the third canon of literary criticism, which is Riti. Riti again is based on gunas, or what Dandi talked about, margas. Vaman, the proponent of Riti school, took a clue from Dandi and elaborated into Riti. Riti is generally defined as Vishisht Padrachna, or a particular arrangement of words that makes a poem. This particular arrangement of words again is based on gunas. So gunas decide the Vishisht Padrachna. So as the words itself tells that it's the choice of words that a poet chooses a style to write or express one's art. There are 3 types of Ritis: Vaidharbi, Gaudi and Panchali. Vaidharbi is considered superior to the other 2 styles because it possesses 10 gunas. Let's move on to Vakroti. Vakroti, as we have since beginning been seeing that it has given preference or it has dominance over straightforward expression. Vakroti is that which is deviational speech. Like since beginning, people thought that there is distinction between straightforward expression and deviational expression, and deviational expression is the artistic expression that a poet with one's genius brings out this deviation in poetic art or in one's art. Kuntak, a 10th century thinker, first time underlined this principle, saying that this is the essence of poetic art, that Alankars, Gunas, Ritis might be important for poetic language, but what is the essence of poetry is Vakroti. As Bhama also made it the essence of Alankars. He took a clue from Bhama and said that it's not only the essence of Alankars, it is the essence of poetic art or poetic speech. He defines Vakroti in his Vakroti Jivitam as Vedagdya Bhangi Bhaniti, that it is a way of expression to which peculiar turn, vichitti, is given by the genius of the poet. It is a strikingness of an expression that leads to extraordinary charm to poetry. So vichitti is the extraordinary charm which a poet with one's own pratibha brings in word and meaning. Further, Vakroti is a poetic activity of deviational character that differentiates poetic speech from prosic speech. Thus, the purpose of a poet is to give a peculiar turn or vakrata to an expression in order to write a poem. Kuntak further maintains that what makes the real essence of poetry is not merely vakrata, it is by virtue of specific charm or vichitti that poetry takes place. So he has further talked about, other than vakrata, that vichitti, what brings vakrata or deviational character is that vichitti. Vichitti is the charm which readers enjoy while reading a poetry. It's not merely that the deviational character, what like form or deviational character a reader might enjoy, but more than that, that it's the charm which is inherent in vakrata, that what Kuntak underlines. So what we have seen that beginning from Alankar Vadins, Riti Vadins and now Vakroti Vadins, these people have been discussing different forms or structure of poetry, that they have been focusing their poetic art on structure. Now we move on to Dhvani Vadins or Dhvani theory, which is completely different from these other canons. They have focused on form, and Dhvani Vadins focused on the content. The proponent of Dhvani school is Anandvardhan. He first time systematized suggestivity or Dhvani into a school. He says structure or form might be important in poetic art, but what is more important is the suggestivity. Why a reader reads a poem, what is the charm in a poem is not merely the form, but it is the content. So Dhvani is that which is the content of poetic art. Anandvardhan, who was basically concerned with poetic language, maintains that the suggested sense is the powerful aspect of poetry. First time Anandvardhan focused on the content of poetic art or the meaning of poetic art. He did not merely concentrate on body, but what is the soul, and soul is the poetic meaning. It has left so great influence in Indian aesthetic tradition that even to the present day, people have been reflecting on this concept of suggestivity and trying to understand it in different art forms, whether there is suggestion in photography, sculpture, or different art forms. Anandvardhan maintains that the beautiful ideas in poetry are of two kinds, Vachya and Pratyamanam. Vachya is the explicit and Pratyamanam is the implicit. Vachya is the expressed sense and Pratyamanam is the unexpressed sense. This unexpressed or implicit or implied meaning is based on expressed. So just as a person who enters in a dark room wants to see something or wants to search something, holds a lantern or torch in one's hand, in the same way a poet uses explicit meaning to enlighten implied meaning. This implied meaning further is like what Anandvardhan says is like charm in a woman. Like we cannot say that charm is in different or distinct body parts. It is the holistic meaning, though it resides in different body parts, but it is also distinct and based on. So in same way, Pratyamanam Artham is that which is unexpressed but is based on expressed or Vachyam. Vachya or explicit aspect of poetry is expressed either through figures of speech and matter-of-fact expression. Pratyaman aspect is the unexpressed sense. Dhvani or suggested sense is of three types: Vastu Dhvani, Alankar Dhvani and Rasa Dhvani. Anandvardhan and Abhinavgupta both gave preference to Rasa Dhvani or Vastu Dhvani and Alankar Dhvani. Vastu Dhvani is that in which subject matter is suggested. Alankar Dhvani is that where figures of speech are expressed, suggested, and Rasa Dhvani is that in which emotions are expressed. When emotions are suggested, that is known as Rasa Dhvani. And Rasa Dhvani, Abhinavgupta says, is the soul of poetry. It is that which brings aesthetic delight in the appreciators of art. Now we move on to Auchitya. We could have discussed Dhvani more, but because of the limitation of time, we can in brief just discuss this much. Otherwise, there have been long debates and discussions on Dhvani. It has been criticized by Mahim Bhatt. He says that Dhvani is not required with Anuman itself. Poetic art can be explained, which again Dhvanivadins demolished his Vyapti Sambandh on which he established in poetic art. Now we come to Auchitya. Auchitya or propriety is the principle of harmony. Alankars, Guna, Riti, Vakroti, Dhvani all are important constituents of poetry, but do not have independent value unless there is harmony between these constituting principles. This first time Kshemendra in his treatise Auchitya Vichar Charcha maintains. He says that there can be various elements, whether related to form or content, but unless there is harmony between all these components, there cannot be a rasa experience or aesthetic experience. It is not that he first time enumerated Auchitya or propriety. Beginning from Bharat, people have reflected on, but he says that it is the essence of literary art. It is the most essential element of literary art. Bharat talked about the dialogue delivery, costumes, and performance of actors, that there should be propriety in all their gestures. Bhama also talked about Auchitya in terms of Alankars, that when a poet chooses certain Alankars or constitutes Alankars, there should be propriety. He talks about that. All these people have been discussing, and Abhinavgupta and Anandvardhan have extensively dealt on Auchitya in relation to Rasa Dhvani. But Kshemendra is one who made it the essence of poetic art. For him, Auchitya propriety is the harmony or balance among all the components of poetry. Auchitya is the condition of being appropriate or fit, the state of being proper, when one thing befits another, or when things suit each other well and match perfectly, they may be said to be proper or appropriate. Such matching or fitting quality is Auchitya according to Kshemendra. Abhinavgupta also, in relation to Rasa Dhvani, has talked about an Alankar Dhvani. He says that the improper ornamentation would be ridiculous, as if adorning a dead body, or an ascetic to look beautiful. He writes, I quote him, "An insentient corpse, even if provided with earrings, etc., is not beautiful, for there is nothing to be ornamented. And the body of an ascetic would adorned with bangles, etc., would look ridiculous because of their inappropriateness to that which is to be ornamented." Hence, what we have seen that the propriety or harmony is a concept which is essential element which what these people have taken very seriously when enumerating poetic in the delineation of poetic art. So what we have seen that these 6 canons, Alankar, Guna, Riti, Vakroti, Dhvani and Auchitya, are the principle to define literary art. It is not that they made a clear distinction between Alankar and Riti and Vakroti. Both, all these concepts are overlapping each other. But what is important that Alankar Vadins thought that Alankars are the soul of poetry, or Riti Vadins maintain that Riti is the soul of poetry. They established a well defined structure, whereas Anandvardhan, Abhinavgupta and Kshemendra talked about the content of the poetic art. Okay, in the end, now we can sum up what we have done in this module. We have discussed these 6 principles of defining literary art: Alankars, Guna, Riti, Vakroti, Dhvani and Auchitya. The major distinction in these 6 canon is that some are based on form, that they are defining well structured form, and others are discussing content. So whether it is form or content, both are important in any artistic expression. We cannot deny either of the things. We cannot say that content is the only which is required in an art, or it's a form. Both have the balance is very important. That's what Kshemendra enumerates in his treatise Auchitya Vichar Charcha. So in the end, I would say that Bharat might have established a rasa theory, which is so popular even the present day we have been discussing. Other than that, people have widely contributed to various questions on what is art. With these words, I thank you. I hope you have followed what I have discussed with you. Thank you once again.